So, back in the early days of big data, we figured out how to hold like a whole universe of information. But, and this is a big but, there was a catch, a huge one. Today, we're digging into the tech that was built to fix that exact problem. We're talking about HBase, Hadoop's real-time engine.
Okay, just picture this for a second. Let's say you've collected an insane amount of information. We're talking petabytes. You literally have all the answers to all the questions right there at your fingertips. The only problem, you can't ask a question and get an answer back right away. It's like having a library with every book ever written, but the librarian takes a full day to find anything for you. That was the big dilemma in the early days of big data.
And this whole problem, this idea of having all the data in the world but none of the speed, people started calling it the Hadoop wall. Now, to really get why the solution was such a big deal, we got to first understand the world that created this wall. It was revolutionary for sure, but it also had some pretty serious limits. And let's be super clear here. Hadoop was an absolute titan. I mean, it completely changed the game. It let companies store and process just unbelievable amounts of data, and not on some crazy expensive supercomputer, but on clusters of cheap, regular old hardware. All of a sudden, internet-scale data wasn't just some dream, it was actually manageable. But, and here it is, here's the catch, the big wall we just talked about. See, Hadoop was a batch-only system. What does that mean? Well, it means you could kick off a massive job, let it run all night, and then, get your results in the morning. Great for big reports. But what if you wanted to ask a simple, quick question and get an instant answer? Nope, forget about it. Interactive stuff was completely off the table. So, that's the setup. And this is where the hero of our story finally enters the scene. A brand new piece of tech showed up, and it was designed for one specific purpose, to smash right through that wall and build a bridge to real-time data access. And that bridge was called HBase.
Okay, so what is this thing exactly? Well, HBase is a NoSQL database. That just means it doesn't organize data in the classic rows and columns way you'd see in a regular old database. Instead, it was built to sit right on top of Hadoop's file system and had one super critical job: give you immediate random access to read or write tiny little pieces of data inside those giant oceans of information.
And here's a really cool piece of the story. This idea didn't just pop out of nowhere. The whole HBase project was directly inspired by this landmark paper that Google published about their own internal system, a thing called Bigtable. So the HBase folks basically took that core concept and brought it over to the open source world for everyone using Hadoop. So with HBase in the picture, the whole stack looked different. At the very bottom, you still had HDFS, the Hadoop file system, as your rock-solid foundation for storage. You still had MapReduce to run those huge, overnight number-crunching jobs. But now, sitting right on top of all that, you had this brand new layer, this interactive layer, HBase. And it just blew the doors open for all kinds of real-time applications.
And look, this wasn't just some academic exercise or a cool idea on a whiteboard. This new power was exactly what the giant, booming web companies of that time desperately needed to run their most demanding stuff.
And man, its rise was fast. I mean, it launched in 2008, and by the early 2010s, it was getting picked up everywhere. Fast forward just a few more years, and by the middle of the decade, HBase was the engine humming behind some of the absolute biggest applications on the entire planet.
And we're not talking small time here, we're talking serious scale. Think about this. Facebook used HBase to power their entire messaging system. Billions upon billions of messages sent and retrieved instantly. LinkedIn was using it for real-time analytics on their platform. It quickly became the go-to choice for anyone building a service that had to be both absolutely massive and lightning-fast interactive. But you know how this saying goes, with great power comes, well, in this case, great complexity. HBase was, without a doubt, an incredible piece of engineering, but it was not easy to work with. And pretty soon, some new competition started showing up on the horizon.
And this really gets to the heart of the trade-off, right? On one hand, you had HBase, which offered just raw, untamed power at a massive scale, but man, it was notoriously difficult to set up, to manage, to tune just right. Then, on the other hand, you had these newer NoSQL databases popping up, things like Cassandra and MongoDB, and they came in with a totally different focus: ease of use. They might not have been as powerful right out of the gate, but they were a whole lot easier to get up and running.
But here's the thing. Even as these other technologies started grabbing more of the spotlight, HBase's place in history was already set in stone. Its impact was just undeniable. So this is the main takeaway. If you only remember one thing from all this, let it be this. HBase's legacy is that it built the bridge. It took the world's most powerful system for batch processing and it made it interactive. It totally paved the way for all the real-time big data apps that we just, take for granted today.
And that kind of leaves us with a really interesting question to chew on, doesn't it? HBase built that critical bridge from batch to real-time. So when you look at the world of data today, with AI, with streaming, with edge computing, and all this crazy new stuff, you have to wonder, what's the next big gap? What's the next big wall that's just waiting for someone to come along and build a brand new bridge?